to grasp those ideas simply. They become therefore objects of the understanding. But now if you try to apply them, put it into practice, use it to see whether or not there really is a thing called beauty in itself, that's the exercise of the intellect, and you're going over here. So these are statements about the intelligible world, and the intelligible world has to become an object of experience. Remember I said the two things interesting. Here's the second thing. That means not only are these different cognitive functions, but if you want to understand this, you have to go to its higher. If you want to understand this as a whole, you have to go to its higher. If you want to understand this, what they call understanding, you have to go to the exercise of the intellect. If you want to begin to understand what lies behind that, what makes that possible, well, what makes the visible world possible and life and nutrition possible is the light of the sun. But the light of the sun owes its existence to the sun itself. In the same way, just as beauty in itself, these things owe their existence to that most brilliant light of being, what is called divine luminosity, and the source of that is the good, sometimes called the one. Now, I've taken you through, with a little degree of freedom, this thing called the divided line. A set of four kinds of things in it, divided in a way in which it is, 2 stages here, 2 stages here. The whole thing, therefore, is a set of 4, a set of 4, set of 4. Therefore, they're tetralogies, sets of 4. Now look at this rather curious thing we have here. Hi.
Before you go
Yeah.
can I ask one question, please? In number E, where you have beauty and justice,
In itself.
it's like they're raw commodities or absolutes or generics, yes? Like love, truth, beauty, not like a picture which is beautiful or
This is the highest experience possible for man, an unfolding of a vision of beauty in itself.
Are those the only 2 things?
No.
No.
We can have beauty, justice, the idea of the good. Yeah, we can have others.
But they're all high quality.
They're all
called positive things.
Yes.
You wouldn't have. You wouldn't place ugliness.
No.
It's
Impossible.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm with you, man.
Yes, that's quite true. No opposites. No opposites. Now, as you look at your page here in front of you, what Jung uses as the tetralogies, here are column 1, natural things and their source, elements from which they came. Same as this. Now, he doesn't have a category here. He just has a general name for what it means. And that is the soul emerges from nature. So everything above that line is nature. Everything above that line is nature. What we would call the realm of opinion, the visible world. Therefore, the top level is the visible world. Now, that visible world is made up of a composite nature. You can separate it into categories. It's based upon sense perception. And you can see, therefore, in sense perception, that the source, you have to get to the moment of perception, what is called apperception. That's a discriminating function within the world of visible things. Now look here. 3rd level. That's the ratio. That's what he called ratio in Latin. The ratio. Ratio is the same word. The word ratio is the same word in Greek. Logos, measure, word, principle, measure, ratio. And it's also called the anima rationalis. It is a gift to man called understanding. Now, the next highest and the fourth horizontal is intellect. The exercise of the intellect. Now we're in the third column, going down, vertical. We have here eternal ideas and primordial ideas. He calls the eternal ideas in the text Platonic. Platonic ideas. That's really here, not here. These are simple eternal ideas, such as we mentioned here, and over here are the Platonic forms. He just had them in the wrong place. Right? Here, as I say, he doesn't have a category. He doesn't explain this category on page 250. He just states it as the exaltio anima. The emphasis is on the exaltation of the soul. He has a footnote at 50. Right? The anima is separated from its body. Right? It is the body's essential quality or soul, whose material nature has to be transformed into something higher. Well, this has to be transformed into something higher, that's this. But he doesn't tell us what it is. It's nice to know that it can be transformed into something higher, but he doesn't tell us what it is that has to be transformed into something higher. That's a missing piece in his system. But in looking at it in the Platonic world, that's understanding. It has to be transformed into the highest vision, which is the clear light, the highest lucidity possible for the intellect. Now, does it appear to you that there is something curious going on here? The Platonic tritologies that he represents in your text, he doesn't go to Plato to explain. He goes to alchemy. And then he goes into Hermetic philosophy. He doesn't go to Plato. He never does. Carl Jung always avoids going into Plato. You can go and get the volume in the library on the index to Carl Jung. It's a nice thick volume. And you can look up the name Plato, and you can check all the references, and there's quite a few, but none of the references explore the thought of Plato. He mentions them in a variety of ways, but not any specific content. He does not, I dare say, he won't deal with Plato, not unlike other thinkers in Europe. They want to keep away from the spiritual side of Plato. They'll play the game in alchemy, they'll play the game in psychology, but they won't do it in philosophy. So therefore, I thought I would like to show you that we can easily relate all of the things he says psychologically and relate it clearly to the whole Platonic tradition as central notions. Now, in the papers I gave you, you'll find evidence of this, but I'm just going to walk through these lists, this list I have here, and then I'm going into the text and I'll just quote page after page as support for it later. The first point he wants to make, and it's a good one,